Hello and welcome to our End of Financial Year Hints and Tips webinar. My name's Joe Tadaro, Advisor Education Analyst at North, and I'd like to welcome all of our participants around Australia. It's that time of year again, and I don't mean Christmas time. It isn't Christmas, but it's Christmas time for everybody in superannuation. That time of year where there's a mad rush to have your clients get their contributions in on time, submit account transfers, recast pension accounts, and get those recontribution strategies sorted. Today, we'll cover all of this and more as we arm you with the tools that you need on North Online to get you through this period to ensure that you have a smooth and successful end of financial year. I'm going to talk you through some of the pain points that can pop up at this time of year and provide you with the hints and tips to give you the tools that you need to take back with you into your practice. If you've joined us before, you'll know that you can ask questions at any time throughout the session. On the left-hand side menu, just select the chat icon and type your question. We will be collating all of your questions along with their answers and email this out to you in the next couple of days. If for any reason the audio drops out, please close your browser and then reopen the session. This should fix it for you. If you're still having technical difficulties, this session, as always, will be recorded and then uploaded to North Online. Just choose the support heading from across the top, head down to training videos, and then webinar recordings. For the latest and up-to-date information for the end of financial year, please visit North Online News and Announcements for all that key pivotal information. So let's go ahead and start our session.
We have a lot to cover today, so please note that whether you're a beginner and never use North Online or a seasoned veteran, our session today will focus on something for everybody. We'll discuss the fundamentals and then include some intricate details with hints and tips along the way. For the learning objectives that we want you to get out of today's session include understand the key administration and pension cutoff dates, identify contribution and deposit methods, understand the considerations when withdrawing and account transferring on North Online, ascertain how to go about the recontribution strategies utilizing North Online functionality, and finally learn how to manage your clients' contributions at a practice level through advisor reporting and event alert management. So some of the tools to take back with you into your practice include the support heading across the top as we looked at previously on North Online. We've got training resources where we've got step-by-step guides on how to do pretty much anything on North Online. And then trading videos, we've got small snippets of information at your disposal on North Online. You've also got North Chat, so chat with a friendly North Service Centre consultant while you work. You can also ask at the conclusion of your chat session for a transcript of the chats. Alternatively, you can contact the North Service Centre. At this time of year, let's talk about catch-up pension payments because on the last day of the financial year, on the 30th of June, we will be running a catch-up pension payment. And this process is to ensure that our clients meet their annual minimum pension payment requirement for the current financial year. So you might receive a call from your client saying, why have I got a small pension payment, or what's this small amount of monies that have come from North? Well, it may be that they haven't met the minimum as yet for the financial year, and this is their catch-up payment. For the new financial year, the 1st of July, clients that hold pensions must receive the minimum pension payment for the financial year based upon their age and account value. So North Online does all the recalculations on the 1st of the year according to the client's age and account value on that date. And this maintenance will ensure the client's account is correctly reviewed and the pension payments are recalculated for the new financial year. So the Centrelink schedules will be available in the client's statements and correspondence by July the 2nd. On the Friday, July the 2nd. Let's move on to the all-important methods of contributing and their cut-off times. So how does your client make a contribution into their North account? Well, there's a few ways to go about it. We've got BPay and EFT. The money must be received at North by 5 p.m. Wednesday the 30th of June. For direct debits, you are able to facilitate a direct debit, which will we'll show you how to do in a few moments' time, must submit the direct debit by 5 p.m. Wednesday, the 30th of June. And then finally, we've got check contributions. Yeah, we still accept checks. The check must be received by 12 p.m. Friday, the 25th of June, to ensure that monies are allocated to the account by the end of the financial year. We also later on in our session have a late check method, which we'll talk about a little bit later on. So let's get stuck into some of those contribution methods. Let's talk about BPay and EFT transfers. So for the BPay biller code is 38778, and then the reference number will be the account number plus the number which corresponds with what the contribution will be. So either a number 1 or number 3. And it's the same for an EFT transfer where the BSB is 033806 and then the account number will be the client's account number minus the Y with either a number 1 or 3 at the end. It's really important to note that payments cannot be made in a branch using those EFT codes, and if you wish to make a payment in a branch, contact the North Service Centre to obtain payment instructions. Let's go ahead and jump onto North Online to show you this in action. So here we are on North Online in a client's account, and you'll notice that we're in the summary and snapshot pages on North Online within the account. So let's scroll down all the way down the bottom of the page. Here at the bottom of the page, we have BPay and EFT details as a summary. So it shows exactly the same information we had on our screen, which is the BPay biller code is 38778. Then they have their BPay reference number. They would add either a number 1 or number 3 on the end, according to how the contributions to be allocated to the account. Same for an EFT contribution. We've got the BSB, and then we've got the account number, plus either a number 1 or number 3 on the end. So alternatively, what you can do is we'll scroll back up the page on North. Back at the top of the page on North Online, you've got the ability to create remittance to provide the payment details to your client. You can do that by selecting Contribute, head down to Make a Contribution or Deposit. So within this page, let's scroll down to the deposit detail, and we want to select Contributions, Add a Contribution. So from here, you can either nominate EFT or BPay. I'm going to choose EFT for this particular one. I'm going to do a $100,000 EFT contribution. You would select the contribution type, if it's a spouse or other family or friend, or alternatively, it'll be personal contribution. Then, if we proceed to the pre-submit documentation page, we'll open up the deposit advice, and we have the payment method that is summarized for your client there, either by BPay or EFT contribution. All you need to do then is go ahead and tick the box and submit whenever you're ready. Please note, for those contribution details to be valid, you must submit the request on North Online. So now let's talk about direct debit and check contributions. With a direct debit, you've got the ability to facilitate a direct debit on North Online all the way up until Wednesday, the 30th of June at 5 p.m. to ensure the monies are available within the client's account by the end of financial year. And then we've got check contributions, which we need to receive it by 12 p.m. the 25th of June 2021. The check should be made out to NMMT Limited and addressed to the North Service Centre GPO Box 2915 Melbourne, Victoria. Please note that due to COVID-19, we're not accepting hand-delivered checks this year. So let's jump on North Online and show you how to facilitate a direct debit on North Online. So here we are back on North Online. We'll then scroll down the page and we're looking for contributions. We're going to select Add Contribution again, and you'll note the payment is automatically selected to defer to a direct debit. Note, for you to be able to facilitate this on North Online, the client's bank account must be listed under the client's profile before you proceed. When you submit the direct debit, North Online will put the funds in the client's account in good faith, even though they haven't been received by the institution. This allows for your client to be invested in the market as soon as possible. The only problem is if the direct debit fails, then we send off a message to the funds to start buying as per the buy profile. If the money is actually not there, then the money will then need to be reversed from the client's account. Another message goes off to the fund manager to sell the investments that have just been purchased. So there may be some unnecessary buy and sell costs for you to buy and then sell, and then further down the track, obviously you might buy again. There would also be any brokerage that may apply with equities, and there also may be some changes in unit prices as well. So we don't want your clients starting with a negative account balance before they've even started. So it's really important to ensure that the client bank account is correct, there are sufficient funds in the client's bank account, and that particular institution will allow for a direct debit contribution. Now let's talk a little bit more about check contributions. So we spoke about the cutoff times just earlier in our session today, but what happens if your client calls you on the 29th or 30th of June and says, hey, here's a check, can you make this contribution into my North account? What do you do? Well, we have a process ready for you. So we want to make it easy as possible for you for the end of financial year. So what you need to do is scan and email a copy of that check to northadministration@amp.com.au, along with remittance for the allocation of funds, which include the account number, the client's name, and the breakdown of how to allocate the contribution, such as personal contribution. And then North will receipt the check based upon the image. The contribution will then be deposited into the client's account. So then what you'd need to do is send the check over to us. But if that check has not been received by the 9th of July, North will contact your office to confirm that we haven't received it as yet, and advise that if we don't receive it by the 16th of July, the deposit is to be reversed and will not be allocated within the 2021 financial year. So if we get to the 16th of July, if the check has not yet been received, the contribution will then be reversed. So we do have a process there to help you in terms of checks, and you might get a check coming in late. So now let's talk a little bit about making large contributions. So North offers a wide range of payment methods to make it easy for you and your client to take advantage of contribution opportunities. However, some payment methods have restrictions set by external banks, which can lead to payment dishonors for large contributions. So it's recommended that payment methods when contributing for $100,000 or more at North, so we can process contribution deposits in on time, you should forward the contribution at least 1 week before the due date. But talking this time of year, that's not always possible. So what can you do? If you're making a large contribution, what you can do is call the North Service Centre and we can provide you with the North bank account details. So the client can make a contribution using the North bank account details upon request. Just need to email us at north@amp.com.au with confirmation of the payment and instructions on how to allocate the contribution if required, like a personal contribution. So the account ID must be used as a reference, and if it's not, there is a risk we won't be able to locate the deposit and allocate in time. So we're thinking a little bit ahead. Let's be aware that in early July, it's common for some accounts to display a negative earning that reduces the balance of the account. So this is caused by unit prices decreasing when a distribution is being declared by the fund manager, as the net assets of the portfolio are reduced by the distribution amount. Once the distribution is paid, the negative earnings will then be offset by the distribution. So whilst we don't have any specific time frames for this process, it does depend on when the distribution is processed by the fund manager, and they're typically paid by the last week of July. So you might get your client calling you in early July saying, what on earth has happened to my account? My account balance has dropped significantly in the last few days. What is it? Well, it's most likely due to the account balances during the distribution period. So let's talk a little bit more about some of the administration cutoffs and times for the end of financial year. For in-specie transfers, expected timeframes of 4 to 6 weeks. There was a recommended date for paperwork to be in by the 18th of May, so that's passed. So if we're looking at direct securities or listed securities, it will be 3 to 4 weeks for the expected time frame, and we recommend paperwork be into North by the 1st of June. So note it's our aim to complete all transfer requests prior to the 30th of June. However, for final submission date to be achieved, we are relying upon those third parties to complete the in-specie transfer transactions, and as a result, we can't be responsible or liable for any transfers not completed within this time frame. If the transaction is not finalised prior to the 30th of June, then it will be included in the contribution cap level for 21-22 financial year. And then further to some more of the administration, For Section 290s for personal contribution, tax deduction for personal contributions, we must be received if you're wanting to claim a tax deduction for personal contributions for the 2019-20 financial year on behalf of your clients, must be received by the 30th of June 2021. So remember, we can only do a notice of intent to claim a deduction for the current and previous financial year. Once that new financial year clicks over, we can no longer do 19-20 financial year. So must get it in by Wednesday, the 30th of June by 5 p.m. For trade instructions for managed funds and term deposits, to ensure that all managed fund and term deposit trades can be processed with an effective date within the current financial year, must be received by 5 p.m. Tuesday, the 29th of June. For equity trades, though, we would, for you to get them in by the end of the financial year, must be made within the ASX trading hours by 4 p.m. The market will close Sydney time, Wednesday, the 30th of June, 2021. And finally, for recontributions, we're going to be talking about recontribution strategies in a few moments' time. If you're considering a recontribution strategy for your clients, the funds must be physically transferred out of your client's super, so out of the super environment, into a personal bank account or account transferred into IDPS, and then put back in, so recontributed back into super to be eligible for the 2020-21 financial year. You've got to do all of that by Wednesday, the 30th of June. So now let's talk a little bit about downsizer and CGT exempt contributions. So for both the downsizer contribution and CGT exempt contributions, they either need to be made before the contribution comes in or at the time of making the contribution. So if the form's not received before or at the time, then the contribution will be considered invalid. So how do you go about making that contribution? Well, there are a few ways to go about it. One is obtaining the North bank account details from the North Service Centre, making that payment to the North bank account, and then providing remittance, which will include the CGT or downsizer form and the account details in which to make that contribution to. Or alternatively, what you can do within the client's account, within the snapshot screen, is scroll all the way down the bottom, like we did previously, to obtain the BPay and EFT details. Now, you're not going to be using the number 1 or number 3 on the end as the identifier for this contribution. You're going to be putting a number 8 on the end. So, for example, if you're making a BPay payment, you'll be using the BPay biller code of 38778 and then the reference number that you can see on your screen, and then at the end you'll be putting a number 8, and that will indicate that the contribution is undefined. You must of course send us that CGT or downsizer contribution form prior to making this contribution. North will then go ahead and allocate the money as per that form. So let's move on to account transfers, very important at this time of year. So let's focus on, firstly, what you need to know. So firstly, product minimums and restrictions apply. Then we've got outstanding fees, tax liabilities, and other accrued costs at the time may be deducted from the cash account prior to the transfer. Account transfers are done on a proportionate basis unless you specifically select the units. So we'll show you that in our demonstration in a couple of moments' time. The investment instructions, when you account transfer from one account to the other, it's like picking the investments up in the source account, putting them back down into the target account. The investment instructions, though, will not be transferred. So if you want the client's portfolio to look like the investment instructions, you'll need to submit a one-off portfolio rebalance. So where the investment profile and the destination account differs, you'll need to do that manual rebalance, so that one-off portfolio rebalance on North Online in the target account. So further to that, for super transfers, if you're transferring to an NCAP allocated pension, you must meet a condition of release, so refer to the PDS for that. Transfers from super to investment accounts can't be processed as rollovers, they need to be processed as withdrawals. And then finally, the existing death benefit nominations will not be transferred on North Online. So it'll be a new account, there'll be a binding nomination per each account. So let's go ahead and take this opportunity to jump onto North Online to get a couple of hints and tips. Here we are back on North Online, and we're within a client's Summit Money Master account, and we want to account transfer to a MyNorth investment account. How do we go about doing that? We're going to select transfer from across the top down to account transfer. You should read the following information before proceeding with your account transfer and then select Start Application. So page number 1, Transfer Details page on North Online. This is where you've got the opportunity to indicate a full transfer, and then you've got either a partial transfer to pro rata across investments or to select investments to transfer. If we go ahead and select partial transfer, select investments to transfer, we're then going to select create a new account from here, because you've got the ability on North Online to create a brand new account within the account transfer activity all in the one spot. I'm going to choose a My North investment account. You'll notice then that we have a maximum transferable value, and that was the value that we were talking about earlier in reference to any fees and taxes that are outstanding would still be deducted from that transferable value, including a product minimum as well if you're conducting a partial transfer. Please note also that if investments are not available to transfer to the new account, then this amount will be deducted from that maximum transferable value too. So let's go ahead and scroll down the page. The transfer screen is made up of investments that can be transferred as well as investments that can't be transferred. Notice on the right-hand side that we have a red dot, and that denotes that there are pending transactions that will delay the completion of the account transfer. Note that even if you select investments that are not pending fund manager confirmation, just like this, then the account transfer the final transfer will be delayed until the fund manager confirmation has been received from all of these investments. As we scroll down the page, notice that we've got investments that cannot be transferred. So you are unable to transfer any partial or full amount of these investments. If you wish to proceed with a full account transfer, you will need to sell these two funds or the investments that cannot be transferred to cash. Note that you must change your automatic buy setting to leave excess funds in cash, and that would mean that the money, once it is confirmed to cash, will not automatically buy as per the buy profile. You can then proceed with your full account transfer. Note also that we also have a term deposit that is listed in the client profile there. You are able to fully account transfer that term deposit. You are unable to partially transfer that term deposit. Note that if you have illiquid funds or frozen funds within the client account, if they are available in the target account, you are able to transfer those funds. You must transfer those in full. Further to account transferring, we have the transfer investments between two accounts held by either two different members or two different clients. When the two accounts are not within the one client number, then that transfer will be a cross-client account transfer. So that is typically treated as a change in beneficial ownership and a realization of capital gains. So in that situation, what you would do is you would go to Products on North Online, head down to Forms, and there is an account transfer request form that needs to be filled and sent to the North Service Centre. So either upload that form to North Online, email it to the North Service Centre, alternatively you can post it as well. So those are the transfers you will not be able to facilitate via North Online. So note that a transfer of personal super account from IDPS will only be processed as a contribution with the default type of non-concessional contribution. That is subject to capping and work test rules as well. So further to account transferring, what you need to know is that when partially account transferring equities from one account, the holder identification number, or you might know it as a HIN, will need to be activated in the target account. So the transfer between those two accounts is known as a HIN-to-HIN transfer, and note that it will take from 3 to 5 days to confirm to go across that new account. So if you're heading towards the end of financial year, you need to get this done before that time frame. A full account transfer, however, will transfer the HIN across to the new target account. So if there is no equities, or if there's no equities in the target account, and you're conducting a full account transfer, which will move equities from one account to the other, then it will actually transfer the HIN across. So you won't have that 3 to 5 days in that regard. So now we're going to be talking about something really important at the end of financial year. We briefly mentioned it earlier in reference to lodging a notice of intent to claim a tax deduction for personal contributions, or S290. Remember, for the previous financial year, you must get that done within this current financial year, or the clock ticks over to the new financial year. You'll miss that boat. But also, if you are account transferring out of an account, either you're rolling out of an account, or alternatively you are withdrawing from the account, which we're going to be talking about in a couple of moments' time. If the client has eligible contributions to claim a tax deduction, you must complete the tax deduction or the S290 on North Online prior to the withdrawal, account transfer, or even recast as well. So once the account transfer, recast, or withdrawal has been completed, you can no longer lodge the notice of intent to claim the deduction for the full amount. So if you're doing a full transfer out of the account, you can't claim a deduction on any of the amount there. If you're partially transferring, then it will reduce the amount of eligible contributions in which you will claim. So there's a good chance now. Let's move on to recontribution strategies. Really important this time of year. There are two ways in which you can conduct a recontribution strategy. One is the traditional method where funds need to leave the super environment to ensure the notice of intent to claim a deduction for personal contributions has been completed. So redeeming funds from that super account to the client's bank account and then facilitating either a direct debit into the client's account, or the client will do a BPay or EFT transfer back into super. We already spoke about some of the pitfalls of completing a direct debit where the money must be in the client's bank account. If you facilitate that direct debit on North Online, bank account numbers need to be correct and so on and so forth. So that's the traditional method, withdrawing from super to a bank account and then recontributing back in. Alternatively, on the right-hand side of your screen, what you can do is open a North investment account or a IDPS account. You need to do that at least 1 day prior to you conducting the account transfer, and then you just need to facilitate an account transfer from the super to IDPS and then another account transfer, IDPS, back to the super environment. So in a way, the funds have left the client's super environment and come back in, but remember, it means you're not hassling the client to do it to recontribute back into their account. They're removing them from the situation, but you obviously may need to have some signatures in regards to these transfers though. So how does that work in action? Well, we've got two accounts that you can see there, a super account and an investment account. So opening that investment account first is the first step. And then we've got step number 2 is account transfer from super to IDPS. Once the money's in the IDPS account, then complete an account transfer IDPS back to super environment, and you've completed that recontribution strategy. So hopefully some handy hints there for you to help you at this time of year. So let's move on to withdrawing on North Online, really important topic at this time of year. For getting the money out to your client. So it's really important to set your client's expectations because the amount of withdrawal will impact when they are likely to receive the funds. If there are sufficient funds in the client's cash accounts, then it will generally be paid from North within 1 to 2 days of authorization. And then it usually takes about 24 to 48 hours after that to reach their bank account. So again, if the amount is within 80% of the account balance, but there is insufficient funds in cash, North will still pay out these funds to the client within 1 to 2 days to come out of the North account, and then a further 24 to 48 hours to reach their bank accounts. So by doing that, the cash account may go into a negative state if you have insufficient funds, and then you'll set the investments to sell within the withdrawal request, or you can sell as per the sell instructions on the account. And again, the client will come out of the withdrawal will come out of the client's account within 1 to 2 days and reach them within 24 to 48 hours thereafter. The other side of the coin, though, is if the withdrawal is above 80% of the account balance and there are insufficient funds in cash, then we need to sell the investments before the money is paid out to the client. So it's important to know these two different factors when withdrawing to the client. Also with this, confirming details with the client. North, we are serious about protecting your client's money, and withdrawals can go through verification. Sometimes we need to contact the member either by SMS or to call them physically. So it's really important that when you're conducting withdrawal or any time is to make sure that your client's details are up to date, including their contact mobile number or phone number and email address as well. So reiterate that request. So easiest way to go about it is to submit the request on North Online. It's the quickest way to start processing. If you do send it to us via email, it can take a couple of days for it to begin processing. So if you can do it on North Online, you should. How long does it take? Remember, we're talking about below or above 80% of the account balance. And then finally, for the big four banks, it's usually 24 to 48 hours. For smaller banks and credit unions, 2 to 3 days. So let's jump on North Online and I'll show you that in action. Here we are back on North Online. I'm within a client's account and I've selected withdrawal and withdrawal or rollover request. I'm selecting a cash withdrawal for this client and a partial withdrawal. I want to conduct a withdrawal for $250,000. Note that the cash account balance, though, there are insufficient funds to fund this withdrawal. So let's scroll down the page slightly. So a message will pop up stating that there are currently insufficient funds in the cash account to fund this withdrawal. If you don't select investments to be sold below just here, then the investments will be sold with the automatic sell instructions provided on the account. So if you do choose this, it will top up the cash account. The cash account will fall below negative, and it will then top up the cash account to get the cash account balance back up to its minimum plus target amount, or the target cash balance. So if you don't choose to conduct it to sell as per the sell instructions, you're going to say yes to select the investments to sell. Note that you will need to add up to the exact withdrawal amount. So that is the two differences for your choice within the withdrawal request. So you would then need to either select sell all or enter the desired amount, which will need to add up to the exact sell amount. To finish our session today, let's talk about how you manage all of this at a practice level. We're talking about reporting and monitoring contributions and caps. So, on to North Online, I'm going to select reporting across the top, head down to advisor reporting, and then within advisor reporting, we're going to be selecting the drop-down menu and choose super contributions, and you can either choose by detail or summary. Let's choose detail. Once we've done that, you can then filter the report either by financial or last year, or you can select the date range if desired. I'm going to go current financial year. And then you can also then filter by product line if desired, and then also filter by the account status as well. Once you've completed that, go ahead and select Apply Filters. So then the report will look something like this. So you can see the client details, including their age and date of birth, and then the classifications of the super, so including member concessional, personal contributions, so on and so forth. There's lots of information available to you there. Then filter and then download to CSV if desired. Lastly, the final tool that you can take back with you into your practice is Event Alert Management. So back on North Online, select Access across the top, head down to Event Alert Management, which will push out an event alert to your registered email address. Note that if you're support staff in the office, you will receive an event alert when an event takes place, as well as the advisor's registered email address. However, if you're an advisor and you register for an event alert, only you will receive that event alert. So we've got quite a lot of options on many things on North Online. Just want to draw your attention to personal contribution alert for S290. We've also got non-concessional contributions within the current financial year, if desired, deposit confirmation letters as well, and finally, if we scroll down the page, we've got work test eligibility as well. So you can say yes to subscribe to any of those event alerts, and you can set the frequency as desired.
Please keep your questions coming. We'll keep this webinar open for a few minutes more to give you a chance to get your questions in if you haven't done so already. As mentioned earlier, we'll collate all of the questions asked along with their answers and email these out to you in the next few days. Again, this webinar is being recorded and will be uploaded to North Online under the support heading across the top, down to training videos and then webinar recordings. Please stay tuned to North Online news and announcements for any pivotal end of financial year information as it comes to hand. Thank you so much for your attendance today. I hope I've been able to arm you with some of the hints and tips on North Online to get you through this important time of year for yourselves and for your clients to ensure that you have a smooth and successful end of financial year. I look forward to seeing you all again soon in our next webinar. For me, Joe Todaro, it's goodbye for now.